The cops asked my wife for orders. My HOA Karen neighbor called police on my wife over our hedge, but 5 minutes later, they're asking her what to do instead. Linda thought she was dealing with some ordinary housewife she could push around. Big mistake. When my wife stepped outside, the officer's entire attitude changed instantly. I've never seen someone go from aggressive to respectful so fast. But here's the insane part. Linda's obsession with our hedge had nothing to do with neighborhood rules. It was about a $4 million secret that would destroy everything when the truth finally came out. Comment where you're watching from. This gets absolutely wild. Before I tell you what happened, you need to know 3 things that will make this story absolutely insane. I'm Alex Smith, former soldier turned work-from-home husband, completely devoted to my wife. Maya Rodriguez is a Navy commander who just returned from 8 months aboard the USS Truman, exhausted, but maintaining that professional bearing that comes from years of military service. Linda Thompson is 62 years old, calls herself our neighborhood watch captain, and has lived alone since her husband died 3 years ago. Officer Martinez is our local police officer, a 15-year veteran who genuinely respects military service and has seen his share of neighborhood disputes. Thing 1. Linda Thompson has been the self-appointed queen of Pine Valley Estates for 15 years. She's exactly the type of neighbor who measures your grass height with a ruler and reports Christmas decorations left up past January 1st. Thing 2. That hedge you're about to hear way too much about. We got official written approval 6 months ago from the Homeowners Association, complete with signatures and official stamps. Thing 3. Linda Thompson was the actual person who signed that approval document, and she's about to pretend she never did any such thing. The perfect trap was already set in motion that morning, though I had no idea what was coming. Maya's silver Honda Accord turns the corner toward our house at exactly 10:47 a.m. on a beautiful Saturday morning. I'm waiting on our front porch, bouquet of sunflowers hidden behind my back, heart racing with the kind of excitement you only feel when someone you love has been gone for 8 months. Linda's watching from her kitchen window like some kind of suburban spy, phone already clutched in her hand, clipboard sitting ready on her counter like she's conducting official government business. Our hedge stands exactly 4 feet tall, perfectly trimmed by our landscaping service, completely legal according to every HOA regulation, and about to become the center of what I can only describe as World War III in suburbia. What I didn't know at the time was that Linda had been planning this exact confrontation for weeks. She'd been watching our house obsessively, taking photographs from different angles, making mysterious phone calls to people she claimed were city officials. She'd made what she considered a huge strategic mistake 6 months ago when she signed our landscaping approval, and today was the day she planned to fix that mistake. But what she was really trying to fix had absolutely nothing to do with our innocent hedge, and everything to do with something much more sinister. Maya steps out of her car, and for exactly 45 glorious seconds, my world is perfect again. Her navy dress uniform is pressed to perfection, duffel bag slung over her shoulder, that exhausted but genuinely happy smile lighting up her face in a way that makes 8 months of lonely dinners feel instantly worth it. I sprint down our driveway like an overgrown kid on Christmas morning, wrapping her in my arms and spinning her around while she laughs with pure, unguarded joy. "I miss you so much," I whisper against her ear, breathing in that familiar scent of her shampoo mixed with the lingering smell of military life. "God, it's good to be home," she whispers back, and for those precious moments, we exist in our own little bubble of happiness. Then Linda Thompson emerges from behind her own carefully manicured bushes like some kind of suburban predator who's been lying in wait. "Stop! Don't you dare go inside that house!" she shouts with the kind of authority usually reserved for emergency situations. She's waving her clipboard like it's some kind of official legal document that grants her power over our lives. "That hedge violates 7 different neighborhood safety regulations." Her voice drips with fake outrage as she points accusingly at our perfectly innocent landscaping. "I've been documenting every single violation while you were gone serving on that ship." The escalation happened so fast it makes my head spin with confusion and growing anger. Maya still has her arms around me, clearly trying to process what's happening while maintaining the diplomatic composure that military training burns into your soul. "I'm sorry, what exactly is the problem?" she asks with polite confusion. Linda cranks up her volume like she thinks shouting equals authority in some twisted suburban hierarchy. "You heard me perfectly well. I've been taking detailed measurements, comprehensive photographs, and consulting extensively with city officials about this monstrosity." I step protectively between Linda and my wife, feeling my own military training kick in despite years of civilian life. Mrs. Thompson, we have written approval from the Homeowners Association that's properly signed and officially filed. She cuts me off with the kind of venom usually reserved for actual enemies. Expired! The rules have completely changed. New safety regulations went into effect. Your approval means absolutely nothing now. Maya's military instincts engage automatically, her voice taking on that calm, professional tone that means she's shifting into command mode. Ma'am, could you please explain what specific regulations we're allegedly violating? Linda panics and interrupts with escalating hysteria. Don't you dare ma'am me like I'm one of your subordinates. I'm calling the police right now and putting an end to this military intimidation. The 911 call that follows is pure theatrical performance, worthy of a daytime television drama. Linda clutches her phone dramatically and speaks with trembling, fake terror. 911 emergency services? I need police officers dispatched immediately. There's a military woman who just returned from the USS Truman, and she's threatening and intimidating an elderly neighbor. Her voice shakes with manufactured fear. She just got back from overseas, and she's already being aggressive and hostile toward law-abiding community members. I'm 62 years old, I live alone, and I genuinely fear for my safety. Please send someone immediately before this escalates further. Maya asks me quietly, genuine bewilderment in her voice. Has this woman completely lost touch with reality? I'm equally confused and increasingly angry. I have absolutely no idea what's happening here, but I don't like where this is heading. Linda made 4 catastrophic mistakes that day, and I was about to watch each one explode in her face with spectacular consequences. Mistake number 1. She didn't bother researching exactly who she was picking a fight with. Mistake number 2. She didn't read the fine print on the approval document she'd personally signed. Mistake number 3. She lied to police officers who actually know how to investigate and verify facts. And mistake number 4 was something that would cost her absolutely everything she valued most in her small, controlling world. Officer Martinez arrives exactly 5 minutes later with his squad car lights flashing, creating the kind of neighborhood spectacle that brings people to their windows with phones ready to record. Neighbors start emerging from houses all around us, some clearly expecting standard HOA drama, but others sensing something bigger is about to unfold. Martinez steps out looking like he's handled this exact scenario roughly 1,000 times before. 15-year police veteran with the weary professionalism that comes from dealing with suburban disputes, but maintaining genuine respect for military service. Linda launches immediately into her Oscar-caliber victim performance without waiting for questions. Officer, thank God you're finally here. This woman just returned from military deployment on the USS Truman, and she's already causing serious problems in our peaceful community. I'm 62 years old, I've lived alone since my husband passed away, and I feel genuinely threatened by her aggressive behavior. She seems to think that wearing a military uniform gives her special privileges to ignore our neighborhood laws and intimidate longtime residents. I've lived in this community for 25 years, and I have never witnessed such blatant disrespect for civilian authority. Maya removes her military cap with practiced precision and stands with the kind of bearing that immediately identifies someone accustomed to command responsibility. Her voice remains perfectly calm and respectful, everything Linda's isn't. Officer Martinez, she reads his name tag with genuine respect born from years of military courtesy. I'm Commander Maya Rodriguez, United States Navy. I just completed an 8-month deployment aboard the USS Truman and returned home this morning. I'm not entirely certain what the specific issue is, but I'm completely willing to cooperate with your investigation in whatever way might be helpful. That's the exact moment when everything changes completely. Officer Martinez immediately notices the commander rank insignia displayed on Maya's uniform, and his entire demeanor shifts automatically to the respectful military posture that veterans recognize in each other instantly. Ma'am, thank you for your service to our country. Could you help me understand what seems to be the situation here? Linda's voice cracks with rising panic as she realizes her plan isn't working. Don't ask her about anything. I'm the one who called you for help. I'm the victim in this situation. Maya produces a manila folder with the kind of military precision that turns simple actions into demonstrations of competence. Officer Martinez, there appears to be some significant confusion about our landscaping compliance. Here is the complete written approval from our homeowners association, properly signed and officially dated exactly 6 months ago. She opens the folder and points directly to Linda's unmistakable signature at the bottom of the approval form. Mrs. Thompson here was actually one of the primary signatories who personally approved our hedge installation. Martinez takes his time reviewing the documents with the thoroughness of an experienced officer, and I can see the exact moment when he realizes what's really happening here. Ma'am, everything in this documentation appears completely legal and properly authorized according to standard procedures. He looks directly at Maya with obvious respect and asks the question that delivers on our title promise. Ma'am, given your military experience and leadership background, how would you recommend we handle this particular situation? Linda's entire world crumbles in real time as the power dynamic she tried to create gets flipped completely upside down. You can't do this. You can't ask her for advice. She can't just show up here and take over everything. I've lived in this neighborhood for 25 years. This is my community. I know everyone who matters. She just arrived and thinks she can waltz in here and completely disregard our established authority. Martinez maintains his professional composure while making his position crystal clear. Ma'am, filing false police reports is a serious criminal matter. The documentation you're disputing is completely legitimate and properly authorized. Frankly, you've wasted valuable city resources and police time with this complaint. Maya demonstrates the kind of grace under pressure that exemplifies military leadership at its finest. Officer Martinez, I genuinely appreciate your professionalism and dedicated service to our community. I don't believe formal charges are necessary in this situation. Mrs. Thompson appears to be confused about the proper approval process. Martinez tips his hat with military courtesy. Thank you again for your service, Commander. I sincerely apologize for this inconvenience on your first day home from deployment. As his squad car disappears down our street, neighbors start approaching with expressions ranging from curiosity to embarrassment. Our HOA president shakes his head with obvious mortification. Maya, please accept my sincere apologies for this completely unnecessary misunderstanding. Other neighbors nod sympathetically, some even offering supportive applause for Maya's handling of the situation. Linda stands completely alone on her front lawn, visibly shaking with rage and humiliation as her carefully planned ambush collapses into public failure. Linda's voice trembles with barely controlled fury as she makes her final threat of the day. This isn't over. Not by a long shot. You people think your precious military uniforms give you special privileges in my neighborhood, but I have news for you. That evening, I'm checking our household email when my phone buzzes with a notification that makes my stomach drop with dread. Maya, you need to see this right now. My screen displays an official-looking message. Emergency HOA meeting tomorrow 7 p.m. Mandatory attendance for all residents. What do you think Linda's planning at this secret meeting? Drop your predictions below. I guarantee you won't guess what she does next. That emergency meeting email was just the beginning of Linda's calculated campaign of psychological warfare. She spent the next 24 hours executing something that would fundamentally change everything about our quiet neighborhood conflict, and what she was planning revealed a level of manipulation that bordered on genuinely frightening. Linda launched a systematic campaign to turn our entire community against Maya personally, calling 8 different neighbors over the course of the day with carefully crafted lies designed to create fear and resentment. Maya Rodriguez is becoming genuinely dangerous to our community safety, she told each conversation partner with practiced concern. Military people often think they're above civilian law and basic human decency. We need to take collective action before this situation escalates and someone gets seriously hurt. I've witnessed this exact type of aggressive, intimidating behavior before from military families who believe their service gives them unlimited authority over civilian neighbors. Most concerning of all, she organized the emergency meeting without officially notifying Maya, a direct violation of HOA regulations that she either ignored or deliberately chose to break. The calculated bait-and-switch operation began when our actual HOA president called Maya with obvious discomfort in his voice. Linda somehow scheduled an emergency meeting about community safety and alleged property violations. She didn't include you on the official notification list, which is actually a serious violation of our association rules and procedures. You should probably attend this meeting, 7 p.m. tomorrow at the community center. Maya spent that entire evening doing exactly what any competent military officer does when facing an unknown threat: comprehensive intelligence gathering and strategic preparation. She methodically reviewed every single neighborhood association rule and regulation available online, discovered that Linda Thompson held absolutely no official elected position whatsoever within our HOA structure, and found documented complaints about Linda's harassment patterns from 3 different neighbors over the past 2 years. When I asked about her strategy for handling tomorrow's confrontation, Maya's response was pure military thinking. Same approach as any military operation: know your enemy completely, gather superior intelligence, and prepare overwhelming evidence that can't be disputed or manipulated. What Maya discovered during her late-night research session would eventually explain everything about Linda's bizarre, obsessive focus on our innocent hedge, but we wouldn't understand the complete picture until much later in our story. The community center at 7 p.m. sharp felt exactly like walking into a carefully planned ambush designed to maximize psychological pressure. 8 residents sat arranged in an intimidating semicircle formation that clearly wasn't accidental, with Linda positioned prominently at the front of the room with her laptop, organized stacks of papers, and presentation materials spread across the table like some kind of official tribunal. The entire setup was obviously designed to make Maya feel outnumbered, isolated, and under coordinated attack from multiple directions. When Maya and I walked through the door, the hostile tension was immediate and unmistakable, like stepping into a courtroom where the verdict had already been decided. Linda launched into her carefully rehearsed performance without any preliminary discussion or basic courtesy. Thank you all for taking time from your busy schedules to address this urgent threat to our community's safety and property values, she announced with fake authority, clicking confidently to slide one of what appeared to be an extensive presentation. Our peaceful, law-abiding neighborhood is currently under assault from people who apparently believe that rules and regulations simply don't apply to them. The systematic false narrative that Linda had constructed was breathtaking in both its audacity and its attention to manipulative detail. She displayed multiple photographs of our hedge taken from deliberately threatening angles that made our perfectly normal landscaping appear somehow ominous and imposing. She claimed with manufactured outrage that property values were dropping significantly due to unauthorized structural changes that violate community standards. She alleged a documented pattern of aggressive, intimidating behavior toward longtime community members who dared to question their actions. Most manipulative of all, she warned ominously about military entitlement complex, systematically destroying the peaceful character of our neighborhood while raising serious safety concerns for elderly residents and young children. Her presentation included exactly 12 distinct lies that she presented as established facts. Linda attempted to orchestrate what I can only describe as a coordinated neighbor pile-on designed to isolate Maya completely. Who among you agrees that this hedge represents a clear violation of our community standards and must be removed immediately for everyone's safety? She demanded with fake democratic authority. 3 hands raised hesitantly after their owners looked around nervously to gauge the room's mood. 2 residents shifted uncomfortably in their seats without committing to either position. 3 others deliberately avoided all eye contact and remained completely silent. Our actual HOA president looked increasingly uncomfortable with the entire proceedings. Linda, shouldn't Maya have a fair opportunity to respond to these serious allegations? He asked reasonably. Linda cut him off with aggressive dismissal. She'll just use advanced military psychological tactics to confuse and manipulate all of us into ignoring obvious violations. Linda's moment of false triumph arrived when she smiled with confident satisfaction that victory was assured. The majority of our community has clearly spoken tonight. I expect you to draft the official hedge removal notice first thing tomorrow morning. Sometimes responsible community leaders have to make difficult decisions for the greater good of everyone involved. But Maya was about to systematically destroy Linda's entire elaborate charade with military precision and overwhelming evidence. When Maya stood to respond, I noticed her hands trembling slightly, the first and only time throughout this entire ordeal that I witnessed any uncertainty in her demeanor. I want to begin by saying. She paused briefly, clearly affected by the coordinated nature of these accusations and the hostile environment Linda had created. After spending 8 months commanding naval operations aboard the USS Truman, protecting our country's interests and serving alongside the finest people I've ever known, coming home to this type of reception from my own neighbors. I reached over instinctively and squeezed her hand supportively, trying to communicate that she wasn't facing this alone. Linda pressed what she perceived as a crucial advantage with ruthless calculation. Look at this, everyone! She can't even defend her own actions without getting emotional and attempting to manipulate us with military service. This is exactly the kind of unstable, inappropriate behavior I've been warning all of you about. But Maya's military training kicked in with devastating effectiveness, and her systematic counterattack began with quiet authority. Her voice steadied noticeably, her shoulders straightened with familiar command presence, and that calm, professional demeanor that had carried her through years of naval leadership took complete control. Actually, Mrs. Thompson, I can defend my actions quite effectively with documentation and facts rather than accusations and manipulation. She opened her laptop with precise military efficiency that turned a simple action into a demonstration of competence. I have official documentation that everyone in this room should find extremely interesting and relevant to tonight's discussion. The systematic destruction of Linda's lies was methodical and absolutely devastating to watch unfold. Screen 1 displayed our original HOA approval document with Linda's unmistakable signature prominently featured. Mrs. Thompson, this official document clearly shows that you personally signed our hedge approval on March 15th of this year. Screen 2 showed an email from Linda's own account dated March 20th. Hedge looks absolutely lovely. What a beautiful addition to our neighborhood's landscaping. Maya's voice remained perfectly calm and factual. This is your personal email from 5 days after signing our approval, specifically calling our hedge a beautiful addition to our neighborhood. Screen 3 displayed the relevant section of our HOA Association rules regarding emergency meetings and proper procedures. According to Section 4.2.2 of our association bylaws, only properly elected officers are authorized to call emergency meetings, and all affected parties must receive proper notification. The crushing final blow was delivered with surgical precision that left no room for argument or deflection. Mrs. Thompson, according to official association records, you hold absolutely no elected position within this organization. You called an unauthorized meeting tonight to discuss a hedge that you personally approved in writing 6 months ago. You've now lied to police officers, systematically manipulated neighbors with false information, and directly violated multiple association rules and procedures. Can you explain to everyone present exactly why you're engaging in this pattern of deceptive behavior? Complete silence filled the room as every person present stared at Linda with expressions ranging from shock to obvious embarrassment. The domino effect of truth was swift, merciless, and absolutely satisfying to witness. Linda, is what we're hearing actually true? Did you really sign the original approval yourself? Asked one neighbor with obvious confusion. I clearly remember you telling me just last month that their hedge was charming and well maintained, added another with growing suspicion. Why didn't you mention to any of us that you'd already given your official approval? Demanded a third with rising anger at being manipulated. Linda's final desperate attempt to salvage her crumbling narrative fell completely flat. Those were entirely different circumstances that you people don't understand. You're all being systematically manipulated by advanced military psychological warfare tactics. She's professionally trained to deceive and psychologically manipulate civilian populations. Our HOA president took decisive control and officially ended Linda's charade. Linda, you've wasted everyone's valuable time tonight with completely false information and unauthorized procedures. Maya, your hedge is completely approved by this association and will remain exactly where it is. This meeting is officially over. Linda stood to leave with her entire body shaking from rage and complete humiliation, making the threat that would mark her point of no return. What happens next will absolutely blow your mind. Make sure you're subscribed to AS Stories and hit that notification bell icon. In this escalating conflict, you people think this is over? You have absolutely no idea what's coming next. I will destroy you, and everything you think you've accomplished here. She pointed directly at Maya with undisguised hatred. You have no idea who you're dealing with, or what I'm capable of doing. That threat turned out to be far from empty words. The very next morning, Linda would cross a line that she could never uncross, doing something that would make her previous lies and manipulations look like harmless neighborhood gossip. My phone buzzed with an urgent notification that made my blood run cold with dread. Maya, you need to see this immediately. My screen displayed something that would change everything. Linda Thompson shared a post. Navy officer bullies 62-year-old widow. With 47 shares in just 10 minutes, and climbing rapidly. How far do you think Linda will take this lie? Comment your worst Karen experience. This gets even crazier. What Linda posted that morning was pure evil, designed to destroy Maya's reputation and career. And for the first time since this entire nightmare began, I was genuinely scared for my wife's future. Linda had just declared total war against US, and she was playing for keeps with weapons I hadn't expected her to possess. Her calculated viral attack was a masterpiece of manipulation, deception, and character assassination that revealed a level of malicious sophistication that honestly terrified me. The post title read like a sensational news headline. Navy officer bullies and threatens 62-year-old widow in shocking display of military privilege. She included multiple photos of our hedge taken from the most menacing angles possible, making our perfectly normal landscaping appear somehow threatening and oppressive. The images also featured carefully staged pictures of Linda looking frail, vulnerable, and genuinely frightened for her safety. The completely fabricated story she crafted claimed that Maya had been screaming violent threats and using advanced military intimidation tactics learned aboard the USS Truman against a helpless elderly woman who was simply trying to protect her community. Linda strategically used hashtags designed for maximum emotional impact and viral spread, #military privilege, #elderly abuse, #neighborhood safety, #justice for seniors, and #domestic terrorism. Her manipulative narrative concluded with the emotional manipulation. These people think they own our neighborhoods and can terrorize anyone who dares to stand up to their illegal actions. Where is justice for law-abiding American citizens? The viral explosion began immediately, and spread faster than I could have imagined possible in our digital age. Within the first hour, her post showed 50 shares, then 150, then 400, then 800. And by evening it had reached over 1,200 shares across multiple platforms. Linda's systematic social media warfare campaign demonstrated a level of digital manipulation that I hadn't given her credit for possessing. She posted identical versions of her fabricated story in 15 different local community groups within a single hour, tagged 3 local television news stations and 2 regional newspapers hoping to attract media attention, created multiple fake witness accounts to post supportive comments reinforcing her lies, and used calculated emotional manipulation with phrases like, "I'm scared to leave my house," and "What if she retaliates against other neighbors?" Most insidiously, she even posted her lies in military spouse support groups, attempting to turn the very community that should support Maya against her. The psychological warfare was working exactly as Linda had planned, and I watched helplessly as the lies spread faster than any truth possibly could. Maya read the growing stream of hateful comments with visible horror and increasing despair. "Alex, people are saying I should be court-martialed and dishonorably discharged from the Navy. Someone found my unit information and posted it publicly for everyone to see. What if my commanding officer sees these lies? What if the Navy administration believes Linda's story instead of the truth?" I had seen Maya handle combat stress during her deployment aboard the USS Truman, witnessed her manage life and death decisions under enemy fire, and watched her lead sailors through dangerous situations with calm confidence. But this attack was fundamentally different, and more personally devastating. This was a calculated assault on her honor, her service record, everything she had sacrificed for our country. And I could see it was systematically breaking her heart in ways that military conflict never could. The community around us started fracturing along lines of suspicion and doubt. 3 neighbors awkwardly avoided eye contact when we encountered them at the grocery store. Someone egged our car overnight and left it covered in sticky mess that took hours to clean. An anonymous threatening note appeared in our mailbox that simply read, "Military thugs not welcome in this neighborhood. Leave now or face consequences." Even Maya's favorite local coffee shop seemed noticeably colder and less welcoming than before, with staff members who had previously been friendly now acting distant and professional. Linda watched the share numbers increase from her front window, talking to herself with growing vindictive satisfaction that was genuinely chilling to witness. "Let's see how tough you are now, Commander Rodriguez. Let's see how your precious military training handles real civilian warfare." Her voice carried a level of malicious pleasure that made me realize we were dealing with someone far more dangerous than a typical neighborhood busybody. Channel 7 News called Linda within hours of her post going viral, exactly as she had planned and hoped. Reporter Jessica Kim said professionally, "Mrs. Thompson, we'd like to interview you about your viral social media post regarding your neighbor. Would you be available for an on-camera interview?" Linda's overconfident response revealed how certain she was of victory. "It's absolutely time that people knew the complete truth about military privilege, and how some service members systematically abuse their status to intimidate and bully law-abiding civilian neighbors." Linda's television interview setup was meticulously calculated for maximum sympathy and emotional manipulation. She applied professional makeup to enhance her appearance of frailty, carefully chose a victim outfit that made her look vulnerable and harmless, practiced her victim narrative with fake tears ready to deploy at strategic moments, and maintained complete confidence that her performance would gain massive public sympathy while simultaneously destroying Maya's military career forever. The live television interview began with Jessica asking the obvious question. "Mrs. Thompson, you claim that a Navy commander who served aboard the USS Truman is systematically bullying and threatening you in your own neighborhood?" Linda replied with practiced outrage. "She thinks that wearing a military uniform gives her unlimited authority to do whatever she wants to innocent civilian neighbors. She completely disregards our community rules and intimidates anyone who dares to question her illegal actions." Jessica pressed for specifics with professional skepticism. "But we've reviewed official documents showing that you personally approved her landscaping project." Linda became visibly rattled and defensive. "That was completely different circumstances that you don't understand." Jessica asked the crucial follow-up question that would destroy Linda's entire narrative. "Different how, specifically, Mrs. Thompson?" Linda completely lost her composure and said the words that would end her credibility forever. "These military people get special treatment everywhere they go in this country. They think they can lord their service over us regular Americans who have been here our whole lives." Jessica reminded her with obvious disapproval. "Ma'am, this woman just spent 8 months serving our country aboard the USS Truman in dangerous conditions." Linda committed the unforgivable sin that would turn public opinion completely against her. "I don't care where she served or what ship she was on. Some of us have been productive American citizens here our whole lives, and we matter just as much as anyone in uniform." The immediate live television backlash was swift, brutal, and absolutely devastating to Linda's credibility. Live stream comments immediately turned against her with overwhelming negativity. "Did this woman just say she doesn't care about military service to our country? This is the most disgraceful display of unpatriotic behavior I've ever witnessed on television. Someone needs to teach this Karen what real sacrifice looks like." The interview clip was already being shared across social media platforms with outrage and condemnation, rather than the sympathy Linda had expected. Linda had just committed career suicide on live television, and she didn't even realize it yet. Maya watched the interview from our living room and reached her absolute breaking point emotionally. Her voice cracked as she spoke through tears, the first and only time throughout this entire ordeal that I witnessed her cry. "Alex, my entire military career is at stake here. What if the Navy administration thinks I'm causing problems in civilian communities? I've given everything I have to serve this country with honor aboard the USS Truman, and now people think I'm some kind of neighborhood bully who abuses her authority." She broke down completely, sobbing with the kind of deep despair that comes from having your fundamental identity attacked. "Maybe I should just remove the hedge and apologize publicly. Maybe none of this fight is worth destroying everything I've worked for." I held her as tightly as I could, feeling more protective and angry than I had ever felt in my entire life. "Maya, listen to me carefully. You are the most honorable, decent person I have ever known in my life. You have spent years protecting people who don't even know your name or appreciate your sacrifice. We are going to fight this together with truth on our side, and we are going to win." What happened next was completely unexpected, and restored my faith in the fundamental decency of most Americans. The local Veterans of Foreign Wars chapter commander saw Linda's disastrous television interview and immediately began researching Maya's actual military service record aboard the USS Truman. Veterans across our entire state started discovering her official commendations, leadership awards, exemplary performance evaluations, and distinguished service record that painted a picture completely opposite to Linda's lies. The hashtag Stand with Commander Rodriguez began trending locally as the veteran community mobilized to defend one of their own. The spontaneous veteran rally that formed was something that belonged in a patriotic movie rather than real life. Over 200 veterans and military families gathered at our neighborhood park with American flags displayed everywhere, creating a proud display of military unity that brought tears to my eyes and restored my faith in community values. Hand-painted signs read, "We stand with our heroes, honor our service members, Maya Rodriguez equals American hero," and "USS Truman veterans support Maya." Local television news was forced to cover the real story instead of Linda's manufactured controversy, and the narrative began shifting dramatically in Maya's favor. Maya's commanding officer called at precisely the moment when she needed support most desperately. "Commander Rodriguez, I've seen the television news coverage and social media situation regarding your neighborhood dispute." Maya was absolutely terrified about this conversation. "Sir, I can explain everything that happened and provide complete documentation." Her commanding officer interrupted with exactly the word she needed to hear. "No explanation necessary, Commander. I have personally reviewed all available facts and evidence, and the United States Navy stands firmly behind our officers when they are clearly in the right, especially when they demonstrate remarkable restraint and professionalism under completely unfair and unwarranted attack. You have handled this situation with exactly the kind of dignity and composure that we expect from our military leaders, both aboard the USS Truman and in civilian life." The tide of public opinion turned completely and dramatically within just a few hours. Local businesses began posting, "We support our military heroes," signs prominently in their front windows. Neighbors started bringing home-cooked meals, fresh flowers, and handwritten apology notes to our front door throughout the day. Linda's original social media post got flooded with over 5,000 negative comments calling her every unflattering name imaginable. Her television interview became an infamous example of Karen behavior taken too far that would live forever on the internet as a cautionary tale. Linda's complete social isolation was immediate, total, and absolutely merciless in its thoroughness. At the grocery store, staff members were noticeably cold and professional, while other customers openly stared and whispered about "that woman from television." The pharmacist asked directly, "Aren't you that person from TV who attacked the Navy officer for no reason?" Even our mail carrier delivered her mail with obvious disapproval and judgment written across his face. Former friends crossed the street to avoid any interaction with her. Maya watched the supportive rally from our living room window with tears of gratitude in her eyes. "I cannot believe this many people actually care about what happens to us." I put my arm around her shoulders and said, "They're not just supporting you personally, they're defending everything you represent about service and sacrifice." Linda's desperate damage control attempts were pathetic and futile to observe. She tried frantically to delete her social media posts, but it was far too late since screenshots had been saved and shared thousands of times. She called the television station repeatedly begging to clarify her previous statements, but they refused to return her calls. she attempted to get support from neighbors by going door to door, but doors literally slammed in her face before she could finish speaking. She even tried posting a public apology online, but got attacked so mercilessly in the comments that she deleted it within hours. The serious consequences of her actions became apparent very quickly. Local businesses began refusing to serve her entirely, her real estate agent suggested. Perhaps it's time to seriously consider selling and relocating to a different community. The HOA formally censured her for bringing overwhelmingly negative attention and publicity to our neighborhood. She even consulted with a lawyer about potential defamation lawsuits that might be filed against her. The for sale sign appeared on Linda's front lawn the very next morning, like a white flag of surrender in our suburban battlefield. Maya was genuinely surprised by how quickly Linda was retreating. "She's really leaving the neighborhood just like that, after everything she put us through?" I shook my head with a mixture of relief and lingering confusion. Good riddance to her, but I still don't understand why she was so obsessively focused on that innocent hedge in the first place. We thought Linda's story was finally over and we could move on with our lives in peace. We thought we had won this battle and could return to normal civilian life. But 3 days later, someone knocked on our front door with information that would completely change everything we thought we knew about Linda Thompson, and her real motivations for this entire conflict. The doorbell rang unexpectedly, and I opened it to find an unknown man in an expensive business suit holding a folder of documents. "Excuse me, are you the family that was involved in the recent hedge controversy with Linda Thompson? I'm Michael Miller, a commercial real estate developer, and I think you absolutely need to know the real reason Linda Thompson wanted that hedge removed from your property." He pulled out his folder with obvious urgency. What happened here had nothing to do with neighborhood rules or community safety. This was about money, a very large amount of money. What secret was Linda hiding about the hedge? The truth will blow your mind. Drop your wildest theories below. Michael Miller revealed the bombshell information that explained absolutely everything about Linda's obsessive, destructive behavior over the past several months. "Mrs. Thompson contacted my development company exactly 8 months ago, just 2 weeks after you moved into this neighborhood. She already knew about the massive Pine Valley shopping complex that's being constructed directly across the street from your houses. We're talking about a $200 million retail and entertainment development featuring premium shopping, upscale restaurants, a movie theater complex, and major anchor stores that will transform this entire area." The shocking mathematical truth hit Maya and me like a freight train carrying pure disbelief. "Your hedge blocks what would have been a completely direct, unobstructed view of the shopping complex from her front windows and living room. With that $1 million view intact, her house could realistically have sold for between $850,000 and $900,000 to buyers wanting premium access to the development. Blocked by your 4-foot hedge, she's looking at maybe $600,000 maximum on the current market. Linda Thompson calculated that she would lose between $250,000 and $300,000 in potential profit because of your perfectly legal landscaping." The master plan was revealed through Michael's comprehensive documentation that painted a picture of calculated greed and deception spanning months of careful planning. Linda had been systematically studying detailed property value projections and professional market analysis charts, measuring exact sight lines from every window in her house to the future construction site, calculating potential profits using multiple real estate websites and professional assessment tools, meeting secretly with Michael's development company about optimal timing for maximum sale value, and most shockingly, deliberately signing our hedge approval document, while already planning to destroy it later when construction became visible. Maya and I sat in stunned silence as the full scope of Linda's deception became clear. Everything that happened, the police calls, the secret meetings, the lies to neighbors, the social media attacks, the television interview, absolutely everything was motivated by pure greed, Maya said slowly, her voice filled with disgusted amazement. It was never about neighborhood rules, community safety, or any legitimate concern. It was entirely about money from the very beginning, I added, feeling a mixture of anger and genuine pity for someone whose life had been consumed by such destructive avarice. Michael nodded with obvious regret about his role in providing the information that had started this entire conflict. I'm afraid that's exactly correct, and here's the really tragic part that makes this story even more twisted. The ultimate cruel irony was almost poetic in its perfect justice and demonstrated how greed inevitably destroys the very thing it seeks to protect. Linda's social media meltdown and public reputation destruction have made her house completely unsellable at any price point in the current market. We've had several potential buyers research this address, discover the viral videos and news coverage, and immediately withdraw their offers without even scheduling showings. Her obsessive greed to protect a $300,000 profit ended up costing her everything she was trying to gain. She's actually going to lose a substantial amount of money on the sale now, selling for significantly less than she originally paid for the property. Michael showed us a comprehensive paper trail that documented Linda's calculated deception and manipulation over many months, initial inquiries about development timeline and construction schedules, specific requests for detailed market impact studies and property value projections, pointed questions about which houses would have premium views and command higher prices. Her detailed plan to wait until construction became visible before suddenly discovering hedge violations, and most damning of all, recorded phone conversations where she discussed manipulating neighbors and HOA procedures to achieve her financial goals. Linda's house sale became a complete disaster that unfolded over several painful weeks and provided a front-row seat to watch greed destroy itself. Originally listed at $750,000, already reduced below market value due to the block view issue, the price was reduced to $650,000 after 2 weeks with absolutely no serious interest from potential buyers. When Linda's viral social media story broke across local news, the price dropped again to $580,000 as her real estate agent desperately tried to generate interest. The house finally sold for $545,000, which was actually significantly below Linda's original purchase price when adjusted for inflation and normal market appreciation. The showing disasters were almost comical in their complete futility. One potential buyer family recognized the address from news coverage and left immediately without even getting out of their car. Linda's real estate agent was forced to begin requiring legal disclosure about recent media attention that had affected the property's marketability. One particularly memorable family actually walked out during their scheduled showing when a neighbor mentioned cheerfully, "Oh, that's the Karen house from the television news." Linda's complete social and financial isolation became more comprehensive and merciless with each passing day. Former church friends quietly asked her not to attend services anymore to avoid disrupting the peaceful worship environment. The grocery store manager politely suggested that she consider shopping at a different location to avoid uncomfortable incidents with other customers. Even pizza delivery drivers and food service workers refused to come to her address after word spread throughout the local service community. Her longtime hair salon canceled her standing weekly appointment without providing any explanation. Legal consequences mounted daily with increasing severity. Maya's attorney sent a formal cease and desist letter demanding an end to all defamatory statements, potential lawsuits for harassment, intentional emotional distress, and damage to reputation loomed threateningly. The HOA began exploring procedures for removing her from membership entirely due to her violations of community standards. Local police officially flagged her address in their system for history of false reporting that would affect any future complaints she might file. Moving day finally arrived on a cold, rainy Tuesday morning that seemed perfectly appropriate for Linda's pathetic departure from our neighborhood. The moving truck arrived to find Linda loading cardboard boxes completely alone, since no friends, neighbors, or family members offered to help with her relocation. Everyone watched from their windows with a mixture of curiosity and satisfaction, but nobody came outside to offer assistance or say goodbye. Even the professional movers seemed uncomfortable and eager to finish quickly when they recognized her from television coverage. In a final desperate attempt at some kind of reconciliation or closure, Linda approached Maya across our shared fence line with obvious difficulty. "I want you to know that I never meant for things to escalate this far out of control," she said, her voice barely audible and filled with what might have been genuine regret. Maya responded with the kind of dignity and grace that had carried her through this entire ordeal with her character intact. "Mrs. Thompson, I genuinely hope you find peace and happiness wherever you're going next." I added my own thoughts. "And I sincerely hope you've learned something valuable from this experience about treating other people with basic respect." Linda's response was barely audible as she walked away for the final time. "I have learned something important. Unfortunately, it's too late to matter now." 6 months later, the complete transformation of our neighborhood and our lives was remarkable to witness and experience. Pine Valley Shopping Complex construction was proceeding exactly on schedule, visible from every window just as Michael Miller had predicted months earlier. Property values were rising dramatically for every house in our area, except Linda's former residence, which remained a cautionary reminder of how destructive greed can become when it consumes someone's humanity. Maya received an official commendation from the United States Navy for demonstrating extraordinary grace under pressure, an exemplary representation of military values in civilian community during and after USS Truman deployment. She was subsequently promoted to full commander with a formal ceremony that was attended by grateful neighbors who had witnessed her character throughout this ordeal. The perfect poetic justice occurred when a young military family purchased Linda's former house at the significantly discounted price that her own actions had created. Captain Sarah Mitchell, a decorated Air Force officer, moved in with her husband and 2 elementary school children who immediately began playing happily in the yard that Linda had once patrolled so obsessively. Our entire community welcomed the new family with a massive neighborhood barbecue party that celebrated military service and community values. Maya reflected on her experience with the wisdom and perspective that comes from surviving an unjust attack with integrity intact. "You know what I learned from this entire ordeal? Sometimes standing up for what's right costs something in the short term, but backing down when you know you're right costs everything that matters in the long term. I'm genuinely glad we fought this battle instead of simply giving in to her unreasonable demands." I agreed completely with her assessment. Sometimes the person who tries to tear you down ends up building you up instead, through their own destructive actions. Our community celebration and healing continued growing stronger. The neighborhood collectively planted a memorial garden specifically honoring military families and their sacrifices, with our now famous hedge serving as the centerpiece of community pride and remembrance. The local newspaper published a follow-up feature story titled, "How One Community Came Together Against Bullying and Discovered Its True Values." Property values continued rising throughout our area, benefiting every homeowner who had stood with Maya during the crisis and supported truth over manipulation. 1 year later brought the ultimate satisfaction and confirmation that justice had been properly served. Maya's house value had increased by $230,000 due to the shopping center's proximity and the positive publicity from her graceful handling of the conflict. Our new neighbors became our closest friends and regular dinner companions. Linda Thompson was discovered to be renting a small 1-bedroom apartment in a complex 3 towns away, forced to drive past our thriving neighborhood to reach the nearest affordable grocery store. The final encounter between Maya and Linda occurred 6 months after Linda's departure at that very grocery store, where fate brought them face to face one last time. Linda saw Maya shopping in her dress uniform and clearly wanted to hide, but instead approached hesitantly with obvious internal struggle. "Commander Rodriguez, I owe you a sincere apology for everything I put you through. I was completely wrong about everything, and I let greed turn me into someone I didn't recognize or respect." Maya responded with complete grace and dignity that had defined her character throughout our entire ordeal. "I genuinely appreciate your apology, Mrs. Thompson. I sincerely hope you found some measure of peace in your new situation." Maya walked away with her head held high, leaving Linda to contemplate the consequences of choices that had cost her everything she once valued. When people asked me if I hate Linda Thompson for what she put us through, the honest truth is that I feel primarily sorry for her rather than angry. She had a good life, respected neighbors, and a valuable house in a wonderful community, but greed made her systematically throw away everything positive in her life while pursuing money she never obtained. Our story ends with Maya watering our now famous hedge while wearing her full dress uniform, children playing safely and happily in our yard, an American flag flying proudly in front of our house, and the magnificent new shopping complex sparkling in the background like a symbol of positive progress. Linda's former house glows with the warmth and happiness of a military family that appreciates what they have instead of obsessing over what they want. Sometimes the person who tries to tear you down ends up building you up instead, through their own self-destructive behavior. Linda Thompson taught us that standing up for what's right isn't just worth the effort and temporary discomfort. It's absolutely everything that matters in building a life of integrity and genuine community. Linda Thompson was arrested last month for filing false police reports against her new neighbors, regarding their allegedly unauthorized mailbox decorations. Did Linda learn her lesson, or is she still being a Karen? Share this story if you believe in standing up to bullies, and hit subscribe for more unbelievable neighborhood drama stories from AS Stories that prove truth really is stranger than fiction.